All right, so the recording has started. So again, welcome. This is our roundtable presentation prep session for the upcoming 2024 Northeast Regional Honors Council Conference, which is going to be held in Albany. So tonight, I'm going to give you some highlights about how to prepare for your roundtable presentation. And of course, I can answer any questions that you might have. I guess the first thing that we should just say is that when it comes to the conference, we are a little less than 2 months away. The conference is from Thursday, April 4th to Sunday, April 7th in Albany. And all of the details about the conference can be found on our website. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute so that way you guys can see all of that good stuff. So if you go to our website, which is nrhchonors.com, okay, you'll see that there is a 2024 conference page. And, the dates are there, including all of our conference information. So if you are, I assume most of the folks who are here tonight are students, in your honors programs or colleges. So your honors directors or deans should be doing all the registration for you guys and help, making those hotel accommodations. So if you're not sure if those things have been taken care of, whether it's hotel reservation or conference registration, just check in with your honors director because we are accepting, registrations now. Registrations go through, I think through early bird registration goes through March 1st. So we're still right in the right window for registration. So all that's going well. The other thing that I'll mention is that we do have a couple of contests and competitions that are still open. So you'll see when you scroll back up to the top to awards and scholarships, we have Student of the Year awards, which basically we look to recognize a student from a 4-year institution and a student from a 2-year institution as the Student of the Year. So all the details about this award are here on our website. We also have awards for Honors Professionals of the Year. So if you'd like to nominate your honors director or a faculty person in your honors program, we will award up to one administrator, one faculty member, and even a staff member. So some honors programs do have, administrative staff that help the program run along. So you can get more information about that as well on our website. And then the final one that I'll mention is our publications contest. So if your honors program has a newsletter or you do a magazine, whether it's print or electronic, you could submit your publication to our competition. And all the deadlines for these awards are March 1st. So you'll see, all the details about each of the awards. Everything is a Google form in terms of the application, so they're pretty accessible. But if you ever had any issues with anything, the best way of reaching out to us and contacting us is to email us at northeastregionalhonorscouncil@gmail.com. So that's our email address. I just put it into the chat. And then the only other things that I'll point out about the website right now is we do have our draft of the conference at a glance. So this kind of just gives you a sense of some of the things that'll be going on throughout the conference. So conference does kick off on Thursday evening. Friday is considered our, City as Text Day. So you'll get out to start to see Albany. And then we begin with some of the conference programming on Friday evening. The big presentation day is going to be Saturday, which is April 6th. So all of the roundtables will take place at some point during the day on Saturday, just to just make that note. And then we will have, student events every night. So there's a student event Thursday night, there's a student event Friday night, and then the conference closes with, or the evening closes with the Masquerade of Minds, which is basically, a student gala kind of event. And then in the morning, on Sunday, we have our, award ceremony. And then we have our conference closing with one more poster session. So you can take a look at the conference at a glance. And then the only other thing that I'll point out is our conference schedule draft. So this is, really a early draft. We will be doing an update but you should be able to search this PDF for your name to find, what session you're in and then what space. So with roundtables, I'll just scroll down to session 1. So what I will say is that with roundtables, so you'll see that it's usually roundtables, governor, that indicates that's the space. So there's 3 spaces for roundtables: Governor C, Governor D, and Governor E, I believe are the 3 spaces. Now, what you're going to notice is when you look at, like, let's say Governor C, you see that there are multiple presentations happening. So these spaces are like miniature ballrooms for the roundtables. So there will be concurrent presentations happening, but every roundtable presenter has their own table. So if somebody's coming to your presentation, they'll sit with you at your table, and you kind of have this more intimate kind of gathering, because the whole point of a roundtable is to facilitate conversation and discussion with the people who come. There will be a moderator in the room. So, and we also provide placards. So that way, if people don't have to go around like asking people, well, which presentation is this? So there will be a placard that has your name and your presentation's name on it. So the tables will be clearly marked. But what you should know is that the tables have been grouped, right, based on sometimes the field of study or the discipline that is being discussed. So you'll see, like with this first example that I've pulled up, right, there were a number of different presentations that bring up conversations about artificial intelligence, right? So all 4 of these roundtables do deal with artificial intelligence, but perhaps in different, interdisciplinary, different fields. And then we also have the first of a series of talks that deal with deafness and disability. So in this room, there will be 6 presentations happening, at the same time. So check the conference schedule. We do have 4 sessions, 2 morning sessions, and then 2 afternoon sessions. And again, that information is directly linked out from our website. So that's a little bit about general info about the conference, about some of our awards. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. Oh, excuse me. So I am now going to show you another handout. This will be sent out to all roundtable presenters. But first we wanted to kind of go over it during our information session. So I will be emailing this out to you if you're, as a roundtable presenter. So keep an eye on your email. It'll come out within the next week or so. But as I already mentioned, a roundtable is a different kind of presentation. It's not an academic panel. Sometimes we call that a paper presentation. So you will be sitting at your own roundtable with attendees who choose to attend your session. And basically you kind of act as the moderator for your talk. So this means that you will present your thoughts and ideas. I recommend preparing about 10 minutes to kind of kick off your talk. But then you get to lead those at your table for an additional 20 minutes, engaging them in discussion or activities. So that's one of the unique things about roundtables. It is meant to be interactive with the people who come. So what you want to think about is the first 30 minutes, you kind of have, one group sitting with you at your table. I mentioned that there will be a moderator in the room. So the moderator at the 30-minute mark will give attendees the opportunity to switch to another table. So there might be people who've been sitting with you that decide, okay, I'd like to go catch this other one that's happening in the same room. So people will probably shift around, and then you'll get new people who come to your table. So at that point, what you would do is you would catch them up to speed. That might mean going back over some of your remarks from your prepared presentation, and then engaging them again with your discussion and your activities. So this is the first hour. The last 15 minutes, because every session at the conference is 1 hour, 15 minutes. So 15 minutes before the session ends, the moderator will ask for volunteers from each table. So everybody who's a presenter will probably stand up and just give the room a very brief, sum up of what you had been talking about with people at your table during the session. So again, it's important to know that this is a discussion-based presentation. The main focus is to share ideas, not just to present your own. I do recommend, if you want to bring handouts and or activities for people at your table during the interactive portion. And just to be aware that because of the setup and everything, there isn't AV that's provided for roundtable presentations. And actually, what I would probably say is that showing any kind of AV would probably be difficult, since it will be, a busy atmosphere, with a lot of discussion happening throughout the room. So then the rest of my handout here just kind of gives you the breakdown. The first 10 minutes, you give your brief presentation. The moderator will kind of say, like, okay, now would be a good time to start conversation. So then when you get to minutes 11 to 30, you're engaging with your audience. There will then be the switch that I mentioned. And again, you can present your ideas to the next group of attendees. So it's almost like you kind of get to go through your presentation twice. And again, you'd have that interactive portion. And then the final 15 minutes, everybody kind of gets to kind of speak to the room so that everybody can kind of hear what was going on during the roundtable session. So I think this is a really unique way of interacting with people at our conference. I've always enjoyed roundtable conversations because not only do I get to kind of, give my thoughts on whatever my talk is about, but then I get to hear what other people think and get to hear their ideas, and it really is a great way of exchanging and networking with people throughout the conference. So when it comes to handouts, again, you could talk to your honors director about, how to get those things printed. Perhaps your campus print shop would be able to, print those for you, or your honors director can help you with that. Of course, your mentor, honors director, can also help you, proofread and prepare any handouts. So it's really up to you. I've also seen students sometimes, bring things like QR codes, and then have people scan the QR code at the table and then pull up something electronically on their device. So that way they can react to it during the conversation portion. So you could really be creative, I think, when it comes to getting your getting kind of that interactive portion put together. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a minute, come back into our Zoom room. Questions, comments? I'm keeping an eye on the chat, but I don't see anything yet. And of course, you're welcome to open up your mics and ask a question. So just keeping an eye on the chat. I don't see anything in here, either directly to me or to the group. Oh, there's one popped up. Are there any specific requirements for handouts, slides, or other presentation materials? So no, there's no requirements. I mean, I think the best kinds of materials are very clear, and they have a purpose, right? So if you're going to bring something, make it functional. Like for instance, if there's some, like last year, one of my students, was doing things about self-care, and her handout was really kind of like interactive checklists for self-care. And then, she even had an activity, on the back where, attendees could write like a letter to themselves, to the younger version of themselves, right? And kind of thinking about like, looking back to the past and reflecting, like, what would you say to yourself, now if you could, what would you say to your the child version of you? And people like really did interact with it. She even brought stickers so people could like have like, inspirational sayings that they took with them. So it's really up to you, like how creative you want to be. With slides. So again, remember, if you're sitting at a table, it might be hard to kind of like, so like I'm imagining like with my laptop, like, turning my laptop, it might be a little bit awkward to have slides unless you do plan to print out like something like that to kind of help people, move along with you. But again, I've seen all sorts of things. I've seen people print out slides. I've seen people just do a handout. I've seen the QR code thing. So there's no requirements. I would just say be creative and definitely take time to do a test run before the conference. I know with my students, we have an event, usually we have an event before we go to NRHC where all the students kind of have like a dress rehearsal. And so if it's a round table, I actually seat them at round tables and other students from the program come and kind of, play the role of the audience, and they get to kind of run through the whole thing and see how it feels. So I would recommend, doing a dress rehearsal of some kind if you can, because then if your handouts and if everything kind of clicks, not just for you, but for the audience as well. Other questions? So I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you want to elaborate on your question? So talking content is accessible, like people can hear you.
Well, I meant to write like the handouts kind of.
So, I mean, so I would say that most people, like at any given time, you'll probably have anywhere between like 10 to 15 people who probably come and sit at your table between the two sessions, give or take. So I'd say that if you made, 20 or 25 copies of anything, that would be plenty. We do have an institution that has students who are deaf that comes to NRHC. So if you do get a student from Gallaudet who's attending your presentation, they will have an interpreter with them to help do the translation into American Sign Language. But yeah, I mean, I would say 25 copies is more than enough of anything that you might want to bring. You'd probably be okay even with 20, especially if you don't want people to necessarily take things with them. Like I've also had students sometimes do something like they print out an article and they ask people to pass it around the table and take a look at the article, looking at something in particular, like there's a question that's in mind. So again, just plan accordingly. And if as you're planning, if a question pops up, again, you guys can always email us at our Gmail address, and likely it'll be me who gets back to you since I'm the executive secretary. Other questions? You could ask questions about the conference in general if anybody has questions like that too. I know that coming up, let me see if I can pull up the schedule. I know that coming up in the next couple of weeks, we will have some additional prep sessions, but then on Thursday, February 22nd, so not this Thursday, but next Thursday, our student representatives are hosting an information session. So that was in the list that where you got this link. And then they're having a second one on Monday, March 18th. So none of these sessions are mandatory. They're just available to you guys if you want to meet and greet other folks, ask any questions that you have. We're really looking forward to having you guys in Albany, celebrating your research and your presentations. And we're here to help at any point along the way. So if you don't have any questions, I've covered all the things that I wanted to go over with you guys tonight, and I hope that you found it helpful. But I can stick around for a few minutes if anybody has other questions, but I will pause the recording here just so that way we don't have like weird recording dead air.